Welcome to Let's Talk About It Tuesday. I'm Georgette. I'm the mom.
And I'm TJ. I'm the son.
And we both work and study in the field of psychology, and we are passionate about sharing what we know with you so that you can live your best life. So today we're going to talk about why some people are happy being unhappy.
Tasty topic.
And I know you have a few people in mind, right?
Oh, yes, indeed. I'm sure everybody at home does.
So why is that? So I found a few reasons I thought we could talk about and might strike a chord with you. Sometimes people are happy being unhappy because they're insecure or they lack self-esteem. They feel like maybe they don't deserve it.
Yep, that's a common one.
Yeah. Sometimes people who are raised in strict households with excessive discipline equate unhappiness with love and success.
Yeah, there's a certain way that they learn to communicate and to process that love. Yep.
Sometimes people who endure lifelong struggles with trauma may unconsciously want to return to that status because they're familiar with it.
Their body is already causing so many more danger signals and reason to be cautious as opposed to optimistic. So it's just kind of becomes a natural tendency.
And we talked about the reward pathway in the past, that reinforcing of behaviors.
Yeah.
That might help me.
Well, it's also when you think about reward pathways, like the unhelpful ones, like because you do get dopamine release when you isolate. You do get dopamine release when you give up on plans or, this, that, or that. But normally it spikes a very short period of time and then it kind of brings down your serotonin levels because you have that inability to be content with yourself when you're not performing either the unhelpful habit or using a synthetic, what have you. So, yeah.
Sometimes people who seem to be happy being unhappy have underlying mental health disorders.
Of course.
Sometimes people who are happy being unhappy pride themselves on being realistic, and they associate being practical with being negative.
Yes, like that is just the way that it is. Well, because in our brain, it's much easier to be negative and look towards the more danger as opposed to the safety. So we do equate that to just being kind of that average baseline, right? But we got to work through that average baseline because although we may get those tendencies, we just can't act on them.
Right. Some people who may be consumed by guilt or regret, maybe even unconsciously, are punishing themselves. So they don't feel like they need to be in that state. Some people are afraid to feel joy because they feel like they might be setting themselves up for disappointments.
Yeah, they feel like it cannot long. When's the shoe going to drop, right?
Some people fear the unknown, and sadly, for some people, happiness is unknown.
Yeah, we think that you need to do certain things in order to achieve it, not realizing that it is a state of mind that you can get through certain behavioral traits and then working on some of your thoughts towards either past stressors, current stressors. But ultimately, it is something that just feels like it is the way it is.
Sometimes the dissatisfaction that comes with being unhappy is actually a motivator, gets us doing something.
Yeah, but for some people it's not.
Yeah.
For some people it's like, I'm just gonna quit and give up.
Yep,
There's
true.
two very distinct, there's always, it doesn't matter what the external stimuli is, it is always our thought processes going into it that make it what it is.
Some people like to take on the world's problems. They can't be happy because they know others are unhappy.
The world is not your world. You really have to focus in on kind of the scope in which you actually have control. Because if you spend all that time worrying about all that, you're never going to be happy because it's an impossible feat.
Right.
You're setting yourself up for failure. You have to consciously do the opposite, set smaller goals and kind of reframe these thought patterns because you get these tendencies, but you can work through them by consciously saying, what would I like to, what I need, what is more advantageous for me to think instead, and I need to work on that.
So some characteristics of people who are unhappy is they find reasons to be miserable when life gets good. They look for problems.
Oh my gosh, anything and everything.
They like to play the victim and they blame others instead of taking personal responsibility.
Always somebody else's fault. Always. But there's so much in our control and our power. But when you are a negative Nancy, you are pretty much sacrificing the control that you have, not only of your thoughts, but of the situation itself.
They compete with friends and colleagues to see who has it hardest. Oh, you think that's bad?
Oh yeah. Let me
Right?
let me one up you real quick, huh? That's nothing.
They have difficulty setting and achieving goals. They're not very resilient. They do not bounce back when things don't go their way.
Of course.
They often use distractions. They escape. They use unhealthy coping mechanisms. They don't take care of their own basic needs. They develop a sense of learned helplessness. well, why bother?
Why bother?
Why
Yeah.
bother?
What's the point?
Mm-hmm. They feel dissatisfied even when life is going well, again, because they're looking for things to
Catastrophizing,
right?
negative, distorted thought processes of, oh, this is good, but that's not as important as these negative things. We realize that your brain, once again, has that natural tendency to allow those negative things to be just a little bit louder because it's a little more comfortable. But it's just by working through that. Once again, not reacting and choosing how you want to respond, and the brain kind of shifts to whatever it is that you're trying to work on.
And here's the one that I think is really pretty powerful. They have dramatic and unfulfilling relationships.
Oh, yeah. Very superficial. Absolutely.
Here's one thing I thought was the most interesting when I was doing my research about misery is that it can bring us pleasure.
Yeah.
It actually brings us pleasure when we're unhappy.
Pleasure, safety, some aspect of control, because it is a natural tendency that we all have. Before we had air conditioning and buildings, we had to live out there amongst the animals in the wild, and every little sound that was made, we had to jump to the conclusion that this could possibly end my life. So now that is almost where you are today. Even if it's someone just calling you a name, your nervous system automatically jumps to, oh my gosh, you are in survival. You need to survive this thing that's trying to kill you. And it really is just working on realizing that that is a natural response, and that there's a different way that you can respond. And it's by you choosing how you want to respond that's ultimately going to get you through this, because everyone, the happiest people in the world and the saddest people, are going to have a little bit of a tendency to jump right towards the negative possibilities, because it is more biologically advantageous for us to know, how can this go wrong, as opposed to, hey, how can all this go right? You have to consciously make it go right and go through your head.
Misery gets you sympathy. So if you say, oh, my back hurts today, or oh, my relationship, you get the immediate, you poor thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, how can I help?
What can we do? That's so unfair to you. Let me get that out of your eye.
It brings you attention. Yeah, because like if I'm happy and I'm like, oh, I'm having a great day, you're like, that's great, and you walk on,
for
right?
You. Cool.
That's it. It ends.
Cool.
It gets us that attention we want.
Hey, look at me.
Yeah.
I'm upset.
Right.
Wonder where we got that. It's a manifestation now of pretty much a temper tantrum.
It makes us feel special and cared for, right?
Of course.
There's nothing special about being happy, right? If we tell people we're happy or walk around happy, we often distract or detract people from us.
People don't like, people. Yeah. Oh, look at that. What's wrong with that person?
They become like haters too sometimes.
Haters gonna hate.
Yeah. Misery makes us unique. Even if we all go through the same trauma, we're all going to respond differently. So you almost have permission to draw attention to yourself constantly.
Of course.
It's about me.
Yeah. Natural tendency of the human brain. Me and my biological advantages. How can I stay alive? How can I stay alive?
Another way misery can bring us pleasure is that it gives us something to do. If I have a problem, I have something to do. I can solve it, or I can think about it, or I can, get sympathy for it.
And when there's no problems, you're like, looking for something, right?
It adds excitement to our life. Like we crave drama. Many of us do. Yeah.
Not many. All. Come on. It's in the
softening the blow.
It's in the news. Right?
Yeah.
If it's something positive, you switch. If it's something negative, what is this? Right? It is something that's more comfortable.
Yeah.
It's more convenient for the brain because it doesn't have to access higher level processes.
And the other thing that I read about the pleasure we get from is that in the pursuit of happiness, we're often miserable because we recognize that what we desire, we don't currently have. Right?
Yeah, of course. Instead of being,
it's like a realization.
Instead of thinking about the journey and how this small bit of discomfort is going to get me eventually to here, we just live in the discomfort of that moment, even though every small thing, no matter how big or no matter how positive or negative, is important in the ultimate fulfillment of your purpose and whatever your goal is. So everything is, even the bad days are needed. They're needed, right? And they're also more in your control than originally thought.
Mm-hmm. So is happiness a choice? That is the big question, right?
It is. Now, things make that choice a lot harder. Trauma, upbringing, things that are actually wrong with your body. But for the most part, it really is a choice. And you really see this a lot more when you actually practice in therapy. Like there's people that, once again, some of the traumas are just atrocious and they've been able to kind of make it through it, right? It is a choice, and it really is. And immediately, what's everyone's mind goes, oh, it's not just a choice. You're not even giving yourself a chance to be happy just the way that you're thinking, right? You have got to accept that it is And that although it become a much harder choice, it is still ultimately a choice.
Right. It can be farther out of the reach for some, but our thoughts and our reactions do impact how we feel, and we do have some control over that.
Our thoughts and behaviors ultimately change how our emotions are feeling, which is ultimately what are stopping people to begin with their emotions.
Right. We can take steps to improve our happiness or increase our happiness. The first step is to build ego strength. So Freud identified ego as that part of the personality that balanced out the id, which seeks pleasure, and the superego, which seeks morality. So the ego is kind of that balance between those two parts of our personality.
And normally we lean, especially subconsciously, we lean more towards the pleasure than we do towards the morality.
Oh, yeah. So ego strength is our ability to maintain our identity and sense of self in the face of problems, pain, distress, conflict.
And very easily do those things make us access level lowers of thinking so that we're not the person that we really want to be. More that fight, flight, or freeze, either verbally or physically, any of those options. But it's more of the animal and you trying to fight to keep it a certain way, as opposed to, once again, your identity. Not the animal wanting to come out, your identity. Right, there's a big difference there.
So you want to build your ego strength because people who do that, like I said, they're more resilient, they're more optimistic, they have a strong sense of themselves. We talked about authenticity just a couple of weeks ago. They're capable of handling challenges. They take a more learning approach to life. They have the ability to tolerate discomfort. They're curious about their world. They treat themselves and others as, they make an assumption that you have those resources already available to you. And it really is essential to happiness in general. So to build your ego strength, I think a lot of things I mentioned were really characters, personality characteristics. So you want to do things like being honest and authentic, accept who you are, be courageous and explore, serve others, practice good habits and self-discipline, and connect with others.
Yeah, so going over those real quick. So once again, be honest and authentic. So allow yourself to feel those negative emotions because you are allowed to feel that way as a human being, but recognize that after like 15 seconds of it stirring, it's up to you to identify what thoughts I would like to think here in this moment, what behaviors I'd like to do here in this moment, being honest with yourself in line with your authentic purpose, goals. If you don't have those, you have no aim. And it's a little bit easier for you to get that second kind of win to work through that natural tendency that we have to maybe be pleasurably into the negativity. Be courageous and explore. This is more important to yourself. Challenge, why are these thoughts the way that they are? Why am I feeling this way? There's always an underlying reason. There's always a archetype or a schema at play that your brain has already kind of processed. And it's not until that you can be courageous in the fact that you can explore, and also giving you that small little bit of conscious empathy in the fact that this is courageous, what I'm trying to do, right? Serving others, acts of kindness. Come up with 5 or 10 people in your life. What are small things and big things that you can do that will give them some level of happiness? Because deep down, instinctually, it's something that's going to open up a lot of doors for us, because the first thing that goes is kind of our interaction with people, especially when trauma starts to occur or rough upbringings. But it is so imperative from a biological standpoint to get these types of things, right? Accept yourself. Right there, acceptance, right? The good, the bad is needed in order to make the good. You can work on it, this and that. It's not until you can accept it that you can work on it. Good habits, right? Thoughts and emotions are extremely hard to control, but when it comes to behaviors, you can pick and choose the ones that science says this is going to make me feel a little bit better. This is the one that dopamine and serotonin levels are going to be raised from a reasonable standpoint, so that I'm going to allow my thoughts and my emotions to get better in my control as my body's not getting some of these physiological responses that are keeping me the way that I am. So you have to find what are some good behavioral activations, because if you're not doing things in your day, it's going to be so much harder for you to maintain level of happiness, connect with others. We kind of talked about that earlier with the
yeah, so building on some of those good habits that you were talking about, or that we need to do, there are some that are directly related to happiness. Loving yourself, forgiving yourself, practicing that self-compassion.
Practicing, because it's not something that comes automatically. That's what people need to get out of their head, right? Oh, I don't love myself. Well, the more that you try and the more that you think about it, the more that you come up with reasons and a logic as to why you're not any of those things, because your brain likes to jump. I'm lazy at this, I'm that. There's probably plenty of reasons for you to that you can identify that proves to you that you're not those things. You have to practice it. Some people aren't willing to practice, and guess what? Whose fault is it? And then ultimately, who is making a choice not to be happy? Boom.
Know your strengths and limitations. That goes back to being honest and authentic, knowing who you are and then accepting who you are. Base your uniqueness on your knowledge, skills, abilities, not on your misery.
Ultimately, yeah, focusing in on the fact that, your limitations, like you can either work on them or they're just a part of you, right? There are something that so much worse about yourself than anybody else can say. So that's not something that you should take into consideration what other people say. But not until you accept those limitations. Go over and practice.
Right. And then in being courageous and doing some exploration, you can actually make changes to those if you want to take a proactive approach. Practice mindfulness is something else that is also directly connected to happiness, living in the present, not worrying about the past or the future, but just focusing on where you're at the moment.
What are things that help you feel present in the moment,
right,
that allows your mind to wander, to kind of get away from it? And the gratitude journal, right? Because I think they say it's either like one in every 4 thoughts or 1 in every 5 thoughts, something along those lines, depending on what study you look at, says that 1 in 5 thoughts are positive. So that means four of them are negative. So if you consciously go out of your way to create as much gratitude as possible, you are already reframing and allowing your brain the opportunity to change and get away from that natural tendency of us to think more negatively by you constantly trying to do it, right? Because that's another automatic tendency that is more so coming from a person that is happy being unhappy. It's not that easy. Science says that the more that you do that from a conscious standpoint, the more likely you will have those pathways strengthened so that you will find gratitude even when you're not necessarily paying attention. So once again, it seems simple and mundane, but you're not doing it.
Well, it seems simple, but yet we talk about it every week?
Yeah.
Every week. It is really crucial.
And we talk about the exact opposite. Oh, this happened. It's like your vision and your attention's like a spotlight. You can only shine at one thing at a time. What are you shining it on? Right?
Accept the current situation. Just, it is what it is.
What you can't control. What can I do from a healthy coping mechanism standpoint in order to make it go as best as it possibly can? Because although some of these things are not your choices, it is your choice how you choose for it to impact your brain. That is your choice. And we got to work on that.
And then developing healthy coping mechanisms. That's something else that will help you to find some happiness. Now, a lot of these things we've talked about in the past. And so we refer to them or we refer to prior podcasts. If you have any questions about anything, we invite you to message us in the comments, ask us questions. If there's something you want to know more about, please share, because we're happy to delve deeper into any of these topics. But this week, we would like you to be mindful of your emotions. Recognize if you're happy or unhappy and why. Work on building your character, that ego strength, and then make a choice to be happy. Right?
The more you choose it consciously, even when your emotions are telling you not to, the easier it becomes, and the more that you're slowly taking back control of this thing that we call your life.
So have a great week. We will see you next Let's Talk About It Tuesday.
Boom goes dynamite.